So it has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad week for conspiracy theorists. Normally, there would be no good reason to show you a clip of the reality distortionist Alex Jones, but this was really something.
I'm like literally here like watching a family member die, like 30 years on air, 27 years as operation, 15 years in this building. And I'm literally, when I know I leave tonight, they're going to shut us down. Maybe it's tomorrow, the next day. I just want people to know I love you. I believe in you. I believe in humanity. I believe in my grandparents. I believe in my parents. I believe in humanity. I just want to stop these people. They got to be stopped. We got to stop them. So, at the end of the day, we're going to beat these people. Now, I try to be dramatic here, but it's been a hard fight.
That was Alex Jones, one of the country's biggest conspiracy theorists, crying, at least we think it was crying, on his show last weekend about the fact that his program InfoWars might finally be coming to an end. For decades, Jones and InfoWars have pushed insane conspiracy theories like 9/11 was an inside job and the U.S. government controls the weather. But perhaps Jones's most pernicious and disturbing conspiracy was his claim that the Sandy Hook massacre, a school shooting that killed 20 first graders and 6 adult teachers and school staff members, that Sandy Hook was staged.
Sandy Hook, it's got inside job written all over it. Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured. All I know is the official story of Sandy Hook has more holes in it than Swiss cheese.
Alex Jones pushed lies like these about Sandy Hook for years, which resulted in his followers harassing and tormenting the families of Sandy Hook victims. So those families sued Alex Jones for defamation, and they won. Jones was ordered to pay those families nearly $1.5 billion in damages. But in 2022, Alex Jones declared bankruptcy, effectively guarding his money from the Sandy Hook families. Until tonight. Tonight, Sandy Hook families accepted a proposal from Alex Jones to liquidate all of Jones's personal assets. This court-supervised liquidation will allow the families to benefit from the immediate sale of Jones's assets while keeping their claim alive in the event that Jones accrues more wealth in the future. And all of this means it could finally be the end for InfoWars. So Alex Jones is being held to account, literally his bank account. Reality has really set in this week, and not just for Alex Jones. This is the Epoch Times. It is a news outlet that started decades ago as an anti-Chinese Communist Party leaflet for the Falun Gong, the fringe religious group. You might know the Falun Gong because of the billboard advertisements for their performance group Shen Yun, a show that travels the country explaining their version of pre-communist Chinese history through song and dance. But at some point in the past 10 years, the Epoch Times became less about Chinese sociocultural views and more about just plain old conspiracy theories. The Epoch Times pushed anti-vax content, claiming vaccines caused widespread injury and death. It pushed seriously niche content like this documentary revealing a secret world government plot to cull the population and force survivors to eat bugs. But for years now, the Epoch Times has claimed content like that has been wildly successful. They put up billboards across the country declaring the Epoch Times as the #1 trusted news. In 2021, the Epoch Times claimed they had grown the site's revenue by 685% in 2 years. It all seemed pretty fantastical. Because it was. According to an indictment unsealed this week in the Southern District of New York, the site's content was not the moneymaker here. Not the bug plot. Prosecutors allege the real increase in revenue was coming from a massive money laundering scheme run by the Epoch Times chief financial officer. Since 2020, the CFO has allegedly been buying millions of dollars of prepaid debit cards at 70 to 80 cents per dollar from criminals on cryptocurrency exchanges. I mean, nice work if you can get it. The Epoch Times CFO is being charged with bank fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering and could face up to 30 years in prison. All of this is negative press for the Epoch Times and positive news for the health of our information ecosystem. And to that end, to the triumph of reality over conspiracy, there was also news on this front.
Let me begin by asking a very simple question. Do we know the truth about what really happened in the 2020 election?
That was far-right activist Dinesh D'Souza's conspiracy theory-filled documentary, 2000 Mules. When that film debuted, Trump hosted a screening of it at Mar-a-Lago, and Rudy Giuliani and Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, they were all there in attendance. It is a very schlocky film that alleges thousands of people were paid to dump Biden ballots in drop boxes across the country and steal the 2020 election. It is a complete fabrication, but the right wing went bananas for it. To this day, the film 2000 Mules is a central part of the MAGA revisionist history of 2020. And last week, after a lawsuit was filed against the media company that distributed that film, Salem Media Group, they stopped distribution and they issued a formal public apology. So a pretty good week for reality and a pretty bad week for conspiracy. And that doesn't just matter for the health of our public discourse, it also matters for the health of our democracy. Because it wasn't just 2000 Mules that was pushing the big lie. All of these outlets were.
If you've been following the media over the past week, you probably think that the election is over, but that is actually not the case.
The Epoch Times was one of the first outlets to really go hard on the big lie. Right after the 2020 election, its homepage became an election challenge tracker, following legal challenges and fake elector events state by state. As for Alex Jones, not only did he push the big lie, but Alex Jones actually helped organize and fund the Stop the Steal rally where Trump spoke on January 6th. The big lie is maybe the most influential conspiracy theory of our time. And I know, yes, there are plenty of other outlets and even sitting U.S. officials who still push the lie. But these outlets crashing and burning this week, conspiracy theorists and distortion profiteers finally being held accountable, that matters. And it comes on a week that has been equally bad for the people who tried to actually use the big lie to overturn the election in 2020. This week, 3 more Trump allies were indicted in Wisconsin for their roles in Trump's fake elector scheme there. And today, in Arizona, Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, pleaded not guilty to his charges in the election interference case in that state. Donald Trump's federal criminal indictment on the 2020 election may be frozen, but that doesn't mean that everyone has to give up trying to bring this country back to reality. Today, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas admitted to accepting luxury vacations from Republican mega donor Harlan Crow, gifts that were first uncovered last year by ProPublica. In his financial disclosure forms released today, Thomas noted that he had inadvertently omitted 2 previous trips that Crow bought for Thomas, a yacht trip in Bali, which may have cost more than $500,000, and a trip to the secret men's-only club, the Bohemian Grove in California. Now, Thomas still failed to disclose several other Crow-sponsored trips to Bohemian Grove, along with private jet flights and other gifts. But Thomas is acknowledging the extremely valuable gifts from conservative donors at precisely the moment that the court is advancing an extremely conservative agenda. In 2 years alone, this court has overturned Roe v. Wade, it has gutted race-based affirmative action, and it has delivered more blows to voting rights. Meanwhile, the Conservative Project is advancing in schools where education around LGBTQ issues has been censored. History lessons are now policed by so-called parental rights movements, and book bans seek to limit what conservatives perceive as a liberal worldview. One book in particular has been the subject of a ton of conservative anger. It is called The 1619 Project by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones. Joining me now here is Nikole Hannah-Jones, author and creator of The 1619 Project, which is out now this week in paperback. Also joining us is Dahlia Lithwick, senior editor at Slate, writing about the courts and the law. It's so great to have you guys here to put all of this in context. First, I got to ask, Nikole, just as you look at the project of the court and how it mirrors what conservatives are doing on a political level, does any of it surprise you?
I think that we can both be appalled, not necessarily surprised because of everything that we have learned about this court over the last few years, but we can still be shocked by things that are not necessarily surprising. We know that trust in the Supreme Court is at a historic low. I think what's probably most surprising is even people who thought we had a good understanding of how government works and of civics. I'm surprised that there's really seems to be no enforcement mechanism against what we're seeing happening on the court.
Yeah, Dahlia, it's the flouting of any kind of oversight and almost the sort of celebration of the impunity is, I think, that is something that makes certain people, including a lot of people I know, incandescent with rage, right? I mean, the idea that Clarence Thomas is coming clean and inadvertently forgot that he had received maybe $500,000 in gifts from Harlan Crow seems like, I mean, so implausible as if to be, in some ways, almost useless as an excuse.
Right. I mean, if one were caught out by ProPublica, and maybe we should just pause to say that ProPublica might be the only functioning branch of government at this moment. Its work has been astounding, and we should lift it up. But if you were caught out by ProPublica taking huge, these lavish gifts, a loan that we have no idea the terms of to buy a luxury RV that cruises around the country. Your mom's house is paid for by Harlan Crow. Your grandnephew's tuition is covered. I mean, all of this is meticulously laid out over the past year by the really industrious reporting of investigative reporters. And then you get this kind of back of the envelope, like, oops, filing today. Here's two things in 2019 I should have disclosed. And as you say, not all of the Bohemian Grove trips, not even close to all of the luxury yacht trips he's taken. It's almost as though it's like, I'm just going to throw you this little bone and disclose a couple things, and then I'm going to use this language he keeps using, inadvertently omitted in 2023. He inadvertently failed to realize in 2021 it was a misunderstanding of filing instructions, right? People go to the death chamber for inadvertently failing to do their documents correctly. And he's just like, oopsie, here's a couple, I'll throw you this bone. It's the absolute materialization of what it looks like to have complete immunity.
Yeah, well, and it also looks like corruption when you look at what Clarence Thomas has been saying on really in terms of advancing the conservative rollback of basic liberties and freedoms that we've effectively taken for granted for the last half century, Nicole. I mean, this is a man that this term of the court suggested that Brown v. Board of Education had been overused effectively, and I'm paraphrasing here, who's helped dismantle women's bodily autonomy, affirmative action, voting rights. I mean, does the appetite for does the appetite of conservatives in this moment at all surprise you, and the willingness of someone like Clarence Thomas, who himself is a black man, to reverse our progress on race that there is? Does any of that come as a surprise to you?
I think that Clarence Thomas has been, and unfortunately looks like will continue to be, the perfect vessel, right? I mean, Clarence Thomas replaces Thurgood Marshall in the Supreme Court, which is the biggest insult to Thurgood Marshall and his legacy that I could possibly imagine. And so when you look at what he offers, he is a black man. So when he rules against trying to stop the racial gerrymandering in South Carolina, when he overturns, votes to overturn affirmative action, and then evokes what is considered the greatest Supreme Court ruling in the history of the United States, Brown v. Board of Education, as going too far, then what it does is or what they like to pretend it does, is it doesn't allow us to say that these are racial rulings, right? Because he's a black man. So when you combine that then with understanding what looks to be corrupt activity, looks to be like American oligarchy has really bought court decisions from the same justice that doesn't seem to care about originalism when it comes to the 14th Amendment, but uses originalism
when convenient,
that we should be appalled, but But I've come to kind of think of Clarence Thomas and others on the court as kind of like the Atlanta Housewives, right? Who's going to check me, boo? Like, I can do this, right? We can do it. It doesn't matter that the Fourth Estate is exposing this and shining the light on what we're seeing, that there is a belief that it doesn't even matter. You can find out these things about us and there will be no consequence. So how are we supposed to, as Americans, have faith in this court, that the court is ruling based on the law, based on precedent, and not based on what very rich and powerful conservatives want them to rule?
Dahlia, Nicole makes such a good point about the sort of puppet-like nature, it seems, that conservatives like Harlan Crow have over these justices. I also just think, they are kind of like the Real Housewives of Atlanta in the sense that they think they can roll anybody. I mean, I'm struck by the fact that Sam Alito excuses away his insurrectionist flags by pointing at his wife and offering a sort of explanation about a dispute with a neighbor where the timetable doesn't check out. This is a judge from a court of law. They know how to make a sound like argument in their own defense, and they're not even trying, in the same way that Thomas isn't even trying, to explain away millions of dollars in gifts that he never accounted for.
Well, I think in some sense, Alex, and this is the sort of dispiriting part, it's because we've trained them with our own complacency about this, right? We have signaled time and time again that, this seems kind of bad, but oh well, they're the monarchs and we're the serfs, and so we tolerate it. And I think, once the court, overturns Roe on the most bogus premise, right, and does so, scuppering years of precedent without explaining, once it does away with, centuries of understanding of the Second Amendment to put guns in the hands of everybody, once the court says, oh, you know what, we're gonna do away with the EPA's ability to function using an invented doctrine that has no roots in the Constitution or statutory interpretation. I mean, they've been doing this and doing this and doing this in tandem with these flagrant ethics violations, these flagrant sort of statements, public statements, right? When you're hoisting a flag, that's not a T-shirt, that's not a mug. This is a flagrant statement of disrespect, both for us, but also for the office itself. And our answer is to be like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And so I sort of want to flip the premise and say, how much more of this kind of conduct do we tolerate before we say we can't consistently live under a monarchy and think that this is freedom?